Hey, how's it going? I'm getting over a cold, but I had to say this. I like Daima so far, but there are still a couple of red flags for me, and I just wanted to talk about the show as a whole for a few minutes and touch on the good and the bad, because as far as I can see at the moment, they are balancing out quite well, and even a majority of the things I would consider negative are down the line, but let's start from the top. I am an avid Dragon Ball fan, and I have been since I was a kid, probably just like you. And just like you, I know when something doesn't feel like Dragon Ball. And since its original end in 1996, we've only gotten two properties that feel like they fit into the IP in a meaningful way. And those are movies. Battle of Gods and Broly. And yes, I enjoyed GT and Super, but neither one of those shows added anything to Dragon Ball that stuck. Even when you talk about Beerus and Whis, they come directly from Battle of Gods. And even the other universes in Zeno reveal, as of this point, has not stuck to the overall arcing story of Dragon Ball. And this is where a huge point goes to Daima because it came out of the gate swinging. We already have several confirmations that are now core canon, and we're only a few episodes in. And that's major because it's the first time the Dragon Ball story has something completely new to offer as opposed to just a strong villain or a new transformation. And I'll start with the look, because that's the easiest to explain. I love the way Daima looks. It's fluid, expressive, and I think one of my favorite things about it overall is the choreography, because I think we're all familiar with the blur of fists and feet that fights became, and Super did its best to reverse that, but I think they finally succeeded here, because any Dragon Ball property after this without at least well thought out choreography is going to look bad, and with that, there's not really much else to be said. It looked really good. Now, the story, on the other hand, is just getting started, so I can't say anything to it as a whole, but so far, nothing has been egregious, but there were a few nitpicks I had, and I'll talk about those all together toward the end of the video to avoid spoilers. But even those nitpicks were obvious nitpicks the moment I thought of them, and I don't know what to put this under, but the visual power scaling is the best it's ever been. You can tell right off the bat that Goku and Vegeta are unnaturally strong in this world, as opposed to them just being arbitrarily stronger than everyone. You can really feel the weight of punches, crashes, and even energy beams have gotten this sort of upgrade, an improvement pulled almost directly from the Broly movie, and it makes things feel like they've truly progressed in terms of power, precision, just everything is on a whole new level. And I hate to say it, but for me that was a bit of a flag. Maybe not red, but definitely pink, cause I don't want to be a pessimist, but we've seen things like this go bad before, and even if it doesn't go bad necessarily, how long can they keep this up? Hopefully the duration of the show with proper support and care of both the show and the workers who make it happen, and even just that sentence sounds not so doable in today's world for some strange reason, but like I said, most of the things I could foresee being bad are down the line. Like, I like where the story is going, but I can see how if it isn't already finished or at least understood where exactly and how exactly the story goes, that it could spin out of control very easily. And then we're at a point where half of Daima is specific canon from Toriyama, and the other half is just like Super, where we kind of pick and choose what we define as canon, and that never really works out. My point overall is Daima is doing great, but is still on thin ice because of its predecessors, and I think we should be skeptical for a while longer just to make sure we aren't being duped. But with that said, here's where we start getting into specifics, so if you aren't interested in spoilers, this is where you get off. But let's just talk about episode 1 as a whole. Since it was a pretty big moment all things considered, when I saw the first portion of the episode was a recap, I almost clicked off then and there, and I'll explain why. At this point in Dragon Ball's legacy, you should not be making entrance level content. You have a legendary establishment that is part of everyday culture. You do not need to remind us of what happened every chance you get. But this recap quickly turns into a plot device, which I was like, okay, they really had me in the first half, but this is new information and old information being interpreted in a different way. The recap isn't necessarily about the story of Z, but the death of Demon King Deborah, who, if you had told me 20 years ago Deborah would only grow in relevance, I would probably be like, yeah, I could see that. It was weird that they killed both of the only Demon Kings we ever saw and didn't explain Demon anything at all. So yeah, I could see it. And before I go any further, I want to talk about my biggest gripe with Dragon Ball, and it may seem small, but it's an indication of something bigger. Can we just age Trunks and Goten up already? I mean, honestly, this makes my blood boil because there's no reason for them not to age up. And if you're keeping them young for the iconic Gotenks fusion, then why turn them into babies that can't fuse anyway? And speaking of weird ages, what's up with Dende? Did I miss something? Why is he regressing in age? But also some positive points on the whole age thing. First of all, the whole plot to make everyone younger holds up much better than I thought it would, just off of a vague one-sentence explanation. And everyone looks younger without going overboard. It's not too cutesy, it's not like kidified, they just look younger. And side note, that transformation looked like it hurt like hell. But I think the biggest thing I got out of this was, I want more Roshi. Yeah, I feel like Roshi has been a symbol for the pervy old guy, and now that he's younger, the few minutes we get of him, it genuinely feels like Roshi is a ladies' man and he just got old. Not that he's a creep by trade. So it shows that you can rewrite stuff like that, just tweak it a little bit, so from now on Roshi comes off as less, I don't know, illegal. And off topic, can I just say, Bulma, always the MVP. But it is just so great to see that every iteration of Bulma is purely Bulma. She is not just smart, she is aware, and it makes it so much more satisfying to see her use the forces of the universe to do her bidding, and she deserves it because she's just that important to every situation. Even more off topic, I hate that Popo folded immediately after being threatened, but I guess you can't win them all, so. Also, it's cool to see how Vegeta and Piccolo are basically kinda pals. We don't get very much of the old crew, mostly new faces except Supreme Kai, who is another nitpick coming. It just feels like he should be a bit more in charge. Like, I know they're kids now and that sort of takes away some of their agency, but Shin is still powerful and knowledgeable. I feel like a lot of the stuff explained he should have known about and should have been a bit more help than just diplomacy. But the newbies, I gotta say, they really fit into the world, and specifically Goku's new crew seems to mesh really well. Also, Goku is not doing it on purpose. I literally rewatched all of the episodes the same day I wrote this, and I still almost called Glorio Corporio. I had to look it up, which makes Goku not remembering his name 10 times more hilarious. But back to a bit of negative. I will say, for me personally, I feel like the Demon Realm is a bit too mundane. I just thought it would be more alien than it is, which again is just another nitpick, but I feel like it'll probably get better as we go. So in total conclusion, I'm saying Daima is well on its way to being the best piece of Dragon Ball media we've ever gotten, but the path is very easy to stray from or fall off, and if not handled with the care, respect, attention, and reverence it deserves all the way around, it will go bad. Now, that's not to say that Daima needs to be perfect, but we can't just have another hype to train. This has to be a sort of checkpoint in Dragon Ball's expansion. That way we have a progressive bar that isn't the same for 20 plus years. So Daima, while I love what it's doing, it's on thin ice for me, and I bet a lot of other people too. But that's all I got. So I hope you enjoyed the video, because I appreciate you watching, and until next time, peace.
That thunder on me clap, make a nigga think before he act. Have a nigga dying on his back, then we double back. Shooters leaving rubber where you at, that's why niggas never wanna match.